Walk round the compound, see some pretty tigers. Walk round the compound. Walk round the compound. Walk round the compound.
All right, here we are in Wakai's old enclosure. Oh, jeez, I just stepped in a place where a plant used to be. I think it was an old tree that died, like a bush tree. I just kind of, yeah. But we're trying to do some, different changes and adjustments because, I mean, it's a great space that some other kitties could use and appreciate. Can't just let something like this just kind of sit without any sort of residence, Oh, there. I think that's Bob. And then, of course, there's Miss Bobby. And then, there's Mr. Diego. And he's been going in there. So these guys are in here now. Hey, sugar pie. Hey, sugar pie. She's a good girl. It's still a transition and things are still scary. And I will say that, the move wasn't the funnest for Bobby and Bob. When we asked them, like, hey, could you get into this transport cage? They were like, I'm not sure if I really want to. And then it had to become more of a like, no, we kind of need you to get in this transport cage. And then they're like, what the heck? And of course, with Diego, we're like, could you please get in this transport cage? And he's just like, heck yeah, where are we going? Yeah. And the entire time, he's been just rolling around in the grass and just like, whereas like Bob and Bobby are just like, this is so big. I don't know if I like it. But even today, both of them actually seem much more relaxed. Bob, he spent like the first 36 hours like on just that platform and like just like pressed down. It's almost like he was like finding a high spot to hide. Oh. Hi, Mr. Man. Hi, big guy. Good boy. That's a good boy. And I think slowly though they're starting to realize like, oh, this ain't half bad. Whoa, hello. Hey. And I remember Heidi and I were walking around trying to find, because they're little and this place is so big, so like they can easily hide. They would get onto the house on top of the houses underneath. So then we'd have to kind of come around and like kind of peek down. But Heidi and I were walking by, and it was just like one of those kind of things. And Diego was just up here, just like in all the hay, just being just like, this is nice. I like this. Look at that. Look at that. Go, Diego, go. He's like, yes. This is Diego's room now. This pleases me. And then we moved them here so that we could put the leopard cats in their old section, and then the margays back into the over there and there and then there, the Peters and the Pauls. It works out. New paint job. It has been particularly busy the last few days. I know, like, I sometimes sound like a broken record because it's like, well, there's a busyness because we have to prepare for a thing, and then there's another busyness because we got to prepare. A lot of times it's just successive waves. It's living here or working here is successive tidal waves of like preparation for large banner tentpole events and circumstances. So then you prepare, there's the thing, and then you just do like a and then it's like the next thing, it's a lot of that. But we had a huge volunteer day. Just this weekend. Oh, yeah, pee. That's nice. And we had groups that come from a few different places. Destiny was able to bring a huge group out from Starbucks, which was great. So a bunch of young baristas. She's on our board. And then another one of our board members, Gary, was able to convince a huge group of pilots in training from Sheppard Air Force Base to come and join in the day's work and festivities. And then there were some other groups, and it got posted on our Facebook like, hey, we're having a big volunteer day, come on out. So repainting the lemur enclosure to help to re-weatherize it because a lot of it was chipping. What's that? Getting this enclosure ready for the bobcats. Getting it bobcat proofed so that bobcats can't escape. And a bunch of other miscellaneous things. There was a lot of like wiring of fences. There was work crew that was going around with Nathan, pulling up weeds all over the entire facility, like the old dead stuff. I mean, I think Cripes probably had between like 30, 40 different people who came to work. And and it's like, if you want to utilize a team like that effectively, a lot of preparation has to go into it. So we'll spend days getting things ready, getting things prepared, getting the logistics taken care of, getting all of our materials. You are so fat, you chonk, and it's a problem. Actually kind of is. Like, it's not even like it's a tee-hee kind of joke. It's like, no, Mika, we actually have to have a chat. Need to get you a Whole30 weight watching stuff. I don't know. Anyway. And then it's like we would spend days at like the day after, so we'll have like multiple days of like prep, and then the actual day of the execution. And then I know that like Heidi and I, the day after, we were just like doing a lot of like loose end things, stuff that was on to-do lists that we just weren't able to get to from the big volunteer day. But hey, like, let's just knock this stuff out. Busy few days. Get you all tired and worn down. But the place looks great. We got a lot of really important stuff done. I mean, really, really important stuff done. Everyone was safe. And that's a good thing. Hello, all you big cat lovers out there. It's me, Derek, again. Welcome to another super duper fantastic episode of the Walk Around the Compound webcast. Hi. Hello. So yeah, at that group from Sheppard, a bunch of pilots in training. They're part of the what's known as the NJET program, or the Euro-NATO Joint Jet Pilot Training Program. And they're part of the 80th Flying Training Wing over at Sheppard Air Force Base. They have a number of international partners. I'd say probably about like 60% of the students are going to be American, and then you'll have another solid chunk of Germans, and then Italians, and then handful from Commonwealth countries. And they all go to Wichita Falls, Texas to learn how to be pilots in the spirit of coalition and cooperation. As some of you now some of you might be thinking like, wow, you must have like researched that group extensively in preparation for this volunteer event. And I would say to that I actually was attached to that group. The 80th Flying Training Wing, and I supported the NJEP program for about 9.5 years when I was a member of the active duty Air Force. Yeah, you heard it right. I was an airman. I was an aviation meteorologist in the United States Air Force. And I have recently finished a 20-year career. Hence why I can have a beard now. So the entire, and I will just, so again, a lot of people on Patreon, I talked about this on Patreon already, people, they know. But for, you know, the regular cast viewers, yeah, the entire time that you've known me, up until very recently, I led a double life. I retired as a master sergeant in E7. And yeah, been to a few different places. I was lucky enough, though. I was lucky enough to be stationed in places that were geographically close by, relatively speaking. I'm gonna quick rundown of the career. If you want to have a better rundown and a more comprehensive rundown, then you know you have to subscribe to the Patreon. Link in the video description below. But I joined in 2004. I went to basic training down in San Antonio, Texas. It was only 6 weeks at that time because we were ramping up the global war on terror, so they needed to get people trained up quickly. I went to tech school at the Consolidated Meteorology course down in Keesler Air Force Base in Biloxi, Mississippi. And that was about 8.5 months long, where it was 8 or 9 hours a day of meteorological training. So you have to sit there and think like other people would go to, you know, university, college, community college, whatever, and they would be taking multiple different classes throughout any given day. But me, my technical training, we were learning just meteorology for 8-9 hours a day. Marching to class, doing PT, all that stuff. Hut 2, 3, 4, salutes, room inspections, etc. My first assignment, I went to Yokota Air Force Base in Japan. This was at the tail end of 2004 until the summer of 2006. Yes, hi. After that, I got stationed over at Wichita Falls, Texas, and that's where things start getting a little familiar. Wichita Falls, Texas is about 80 miles that way. Within a month after getting assigned over there, I found care. I became enamored with the place. I started to volunteer. You know that story. Because Wichita Falls, Texas, because Sheppard Air Force Base isn't exactly a place that people are clamoring to get into, it's kind of just in the middle of nowhere. Which I will say, though, a lot of times the most exciting and best missions to support are in some of the most boring places. So it was a pretty cool thing, helping to train generations of pilots, because I was there for about 9.5 years. Pilots that would go on to fly multiple different airframes for multiple different air forces in multiple different countries, which is pretty cool. Hi. And I was helping to give them the weather. And then of course I was becoming more of a supervisor, and then helping to train other people to give the weather, and etc., and so on and so forth. I was able to stay at Sheppard for quite a while. I was there for almost 10 years. Eventually I had to take an assignment somewhere, but the people who controlled the assignments, or the assignment managers, they actually did me a solid and at least gave me a place that was still relatively close by. That's when I went over to Shreveport. I was stationed over at I was at Barksdale Air Force Base in Shreveport, Bossier, Louisiana, which is about 250 miles away from here. It's about a 4-hour drive, but it was at least somewhat manageable. That's when I decided, okay, I was going to go over there. I was going to get an apartment, and then as much as I can, whenever time I have off, I'm going to come back over here. That's why I was able to continue to film and give updates about the facility to you all those years. And it was weird because that was in 2015. I had to get that assignment in 2015. So it was also right like when Vine was still a thing, even though Vine, it was like by then it was starting to kind of taper off. You could tell like this whole platform is not doing anything. It's huge, but it's basically just like a weird paper tiger. That was a weird time. I remember like when I first got to that new assignment over at Shreveport, one of the first things I did was ask for time off so I could go to the stupid Shorty Awards. Yep. And you also have to realize, like, okay, so you all know me as BigCatDerek, but everyone else knows me as, at one point, either Airman Krahn or then Sergeant Krahn or Master Sergeant Krahn. They knew that the Tigers and they knew that the facility was a part of my life, but they thought it was like, hey, that's just neat. Cool. Anyway, about that thing I needed to ask you about the job that we're performing. That's how they knew me. Everyone, and like, there was a period of time where I had offices and I had like, accolades and awards and medals and decorations and stuff like that on the wall. I actually did at one point have my silver play button on the wall. And most of the time people would kind of walk in and they'd be like, huh, that's cool. And then they would start just like, anyway, that's it. And that's honestly, I like that. I had a whole other different lifestyle that was separate from, this, where it's like, what other sorts of value are you giving? What other sorts of things are you bringing to the table? And that's a good exercise. That's a good reminder to always have. I was at Shreveport. I was at Barksdale for about 4 years. And then I got an assignment over at Dyess Air Force Base in Abilene, Texas. And I actually chose that. I elected, or I petitioned for that assignment, because by that point I was at a stage in my career where I could actually like give a little bit more of like, hey, I'd like to go over here. I possess this and this and this qualification to then fill the job that is being listed. Please, can I go there? If no one else wants it, I'll get it. That's basically how that worked out. No one else wanted it, so I ended up getting it. And again, it kept me within the orbit. So Wichita Falls, 80 miles that way. Shreveport is about 250 miles that way. Abilene is about 160 miles that way. So for, about 18 years. of my military career. I was in this kind of radius of this place. You know, because of course, like, it was also, I was able to make the case, you know, it had nothing to do with like, but I have so many people that I have to film. They didn't give a crap about that. But the big thing was like, there's a facility, and like my family, my wife and my kids and all that stuff, like they can't leave. This is like, if there's any sort of like consideration, please. And I also had to kind of show that I was willing to take the hits and sacrifice. So when opportunities came up to deploy, I did raise my hand and say, yeah, I'll go. Whoa. So I did go to Afghanistan for 6 months. That was a weird one. That was a weird one because I was basically filling in a short notice replacement position. Someone had fallen out, and it could have been because they got sick or they had like something that made them non-deployable. So then a call went out from our functional community. When I say functional, I mean like the weather forecasting, the Air Force weather forecasting community through the Air Education Training Command. It's complex, but there's different ways that information gets distributed. But a call went out that said like, hey, we need to fill a position to go on a 6-month deployment, and we need to know, and it's going to be leaving in less than 3 weeks, and we need to know by within an hour or so. And I was already in I was already in Keesler. I was in Mississippi doing an upgrade training course. I was actually learning advanced radar interrogation, which is probably one of the best meteorological courses I've ever taken. It was actually the most useful. Interrogating radar is a very complicated thing, but it helps you be a severe weather forecaster if you're good at it. So I was already gone. So it's a month-long course. I was in Mississippi. I still had a week left to go on my course. I get a call from my boss that says, hey, I know you're down in Mississippi, but we have an opportunity. There's a deployment. You always said if something ever came up, which the station that I was at, because we supported an international mission, a NATO mission, we actually were contractually obligated to have like so many military personnel available at all times. So deployments were something that almost kind of never, well, it's like they were rare. They were much more rare for the people that supported that NATO mission. And it's like we could only allow for a deployment if there's an excess beyond our contractual obligated numbers. It just so happened that we were just, weird, like we just barely had like enough people to allow me to go. So then my boss called me and said like, hey, we've got this thing. Like you still have a week left on your course. You're going to be leaving for 6 months in 2 weeks after you get back home. So then you have to basically get ready for your deployment and then get your affairs in order. Spend as much time with your family as can, because then you got to ship out. And I need to know your answer in 10 minutes. Yeah. So that's, I'm like, okay, I need to call my wife. I called Heidi. And I'm like, hey babe, there's a thing come up. And she knew that this is like, I had told her before, like that, hey, if this ever is a thing, then this sometimes might be a thing. And this is before we were even married. But we had been together for a couple of years at that point. And I basically said like, I got to do this, so I'm gonna say yes. And she was, I mean, it's not like she was doing happy Snoopy dances, but she was extremely supportive. And it's like, I know what I'm getting into when I get into this relationship, so I have to support him. Or not I have to, but she's like, I'm going to choose to support him, is a better way to characterize that. I know I say quick rundown. We're already like, what, 20 minutes in? Something like that. That was also another really important thing where it's just like, hey, I think I got the right one. Like, I think, you know, because it was a big part of our relationship where I had to say, like, I need to provide an answer. I'm going to say yes. I'm only going to be home for a couple of weeks and then I got to go. I'm going to be gone for 6 months to, you know, a hot, potentially dangerous place. And then she's like, I'm not happy about it, but okay. And when she said that, I'm just like, I might want to hold on to this one. Yeah. So that's when we got married. It was a whirlwind. Weird time. I never joined the Air Force thinking that retirement was going to be a thing. I joined it initially on a 6 year enlistment. You know, like they say, like, you can do a 4-year enlistment, or if you do a 6-year enlistment, then you'll make rank a little bit quicker, and then it means more money, and then you're like, oh, more money. I'm gonna buy all the PS2 games. That's just when I ended up. It's like those first few years, it was just like, yeah, it was hamburgers and just PS2 games. It's basically like, and hamburgers, PS2 games, and beer. That's what I spent my money on. Those first few years in the Air Force. It's my priorities. And then I found tigers. But as I went along in my career, and I kept on gaining responsibility, and I kept on, you know, like making rank, and yeah, I kept on saying, yeah, I'll do another tour, or I'll do another enlistment, or whatever, sure. But yeah, I would get to the end of like my enlistment terms, and then I'd have to be making a decision. It's like, oh, we need to know whether or not you plan on re-enlisting, and it's within, I don't know, it's within like 6 to 8 months or something like that of like when you have your next term ending. And like for the first like 2-3 enlistments, I'm just like, no, I don't want to do it. Okay, well, I'm going to do it, but this is going to be the last one, and then I'm done. I'm getting out. I ain't doing this no more. And I just kept on doing that until eventually, like, I was like 12 years into a career. I'd already been like getting, you know, my more rank, more responsibility. I was able to navigate the waters a lot better. I was getting paid a lot more. And then I'm just like, dude, this is your life. Like, what are you doing? You're actually, like, it's turning into a good thing now. Like, this is you. Just go the distance. So then I did. So I ended up doing 20 years. And I retired out of the 7th Operation Support Squadron. So yeah. I was, so let's see. I was, I think it was the 332nd training squadron in basic training. We were the Vipers. And then I was the 335th training squadron at Keesler. The Bulls. Bulls to the top. Hoorah. And then I was at the 20th Operational Weather Squadron. I don't think that we had a mascot. And then I went to the 80th Operation Support Squadron. We were the Wizards. The Wizards. Wizards. That's the Wizard Whisper. I actually made that a thing. I hope it's still a thing. that people do at award ceremonies. Other people would have like, oh, we're the maintenance squadron, we're so, yeah, we break it and we fix it and stuff. And I just kept it like, we would be at award ceremonies and then be like, from the 7th or the 80th Operation Support Squadron, and I'd be like, wizards, wizards, wizards. I would just whisper, and then a bunch of other people started doing it with me, and it was like that for years. And then I came back for a different thing later on, and people, I guess, were still doing it, and I'm just like, yes, this is my legacy. Wizards. I was at the 455th Air Expeditionary Wing, 455th Air Expeditionary Squadron when I was in Afghanistan. And then I was at the 26th Operational Weather Squadron. We were the Bandits. I was over at Shreveport. Then I was at the 7th Operations Support Squadron under the 7th Operations Group under the 7th Bomb Wing. 7th Operations Support Squadron. We were the Phoenixes. So Operations Support Squadrons, the two that I've been in, they were like mythological Dungeons and Dragons things, which is pretty cool. I was a wizard and a phoenix. It was neat. Anyway, that's what I've been doing. That's what I've been up to for 20 years. For a bunch of different reasons, I just kind of kept that close to the vest. I kept it close to the chest about my military affiliation. I can get into more of that later on, but I just figured I'd let you know, like, yeah, I've been doing that for basically as long as you've known me. And then people would be like, oh my gosh, like you have whiskers. And I'm like, yeah, I was on leave. I was on leave and I could let my stuff grow out a little bit. But then I had to shave to go back. Because, you know, military. So yeah, that's my story and I'm sticking to it. I've gotten to, as a weather forecaster, I've been able to support a lot of different missions because I don't know if you know this, but weather is kind of a global phenomenon. And anywhere that an airplane can fly, they want to know environmental information. So we would get deployed anywhere and everywhere. Not to mention also, we have to like kind of be embedded in mission planning cells, mission planning rooms. So it's like a weird kind of thing where it's like weather people could actually have like some pretty high security clearances because you may have to then support like a high stakes operation or a high stakes mission that, you know, requires like a pretty lofty degree of security. You have to know the parameters of the mission in order to provide the meteorological information. So, yeah. Oh my gosh. Been in a lot of briefing rooms. Been in a lot of like rooms with a bunch of TVs on the walls and stuff like that. Given weather briefings to fighter jets and heavy transports and air refuelers and bombers and reconnaissance stuff and Army planes and Navy planes and Marine planes and yeah. Provided a lot of support to a lot of different things. Very, very cool stuff. Anywho. This one's getting a little bit verbose. A little bit wordy. But I'm retired now. So, you know, this will probably be getting a little bit whiskerier. I'm gonna try to keep my gut low. I know at some point someone was saying like, oh, when I was talking about just like I'm fat, and they're like, well, I thought that since you retired and you're working at the facility more often that you would be losing weight. Not necessarily. A lot of the stuff that we do out here I would say is more functional muscle, like power lifter type stuff. And if you've ever seen strongman competitions, like a lot of those guys are very kind of barrel chesty kind of stuff. Also, I've probably been eating a lot more since I've been home, sleeping a lot more, so my body's recovering. And you have to sit there and think, I was doing regular PT, I was doing jujitsu 2-3 times a week, I was basically just like eating a very limited number of calories per day, and then I was also running on the days that I wasn't doing jujitsu, so I was a little bit more svelte when I was still Master Sergeant Krahn. I'll get it back. It's only been a couple of months since I've been out. Couple months. It's fine. The tummy's gonna go. It's all good. It's all good. I've just been doing my victory lap. My victory lap involves a lot of brownies. A lot of pizza. You like pizza and brownies? And regular brownies, mind you. Just regular. People are like, oh, wink, wink. No. Being silly. All right. Anyway. I'll yak about this more. If you got any questions, put them in the comment section below and I'll try to remember to read them. Anyway. Thanks for watching this episode of the Walk Around the Compound webcast. Hashtag Dormist in the comment section below. Like and subscribe for all of your big cat goodness. And if you want to learn more about the facility around me, you can always visit the website, carerescuetaxes.com. For more information, you keep those tigers fed. Big shout out to the extra fancy patrons. I see you. You are so fancy. And thank you so much for your continued support. Fly, fight, win. We'll see you next time. All right. Bye-bye.
Walk around the compound, walk around the compound, stay 6 feet. Walk around the compound, walk around the compound, walk around the compound, stay 6 feet. Walk around the compound, walk around the compound, walk around the compound, stay 6 feet. Walk around the compound, 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 stay 6 feet.